world. I hope you're having a wonderful day. You're listening to or watching the Service Business Mastery podcast. I am host Tersh Blissett, and sitting virtually next to my co-host Joshua Crouch. Today, we're going to talk about navigating disruptions in your career, company, career, life, and navigating that disruption through the fog of disruption. Navigating. So, okay, I'm
you want to start over?
Well, yeah, this is hilarious. So I have my title written down here on my piece of paper, and then I glance over here at David's book, and the title of his book is Hardships: Navigating Your Company, Career, and Life Through the Fog of Disruption. And so my brain wanted to mix and morph all that together, but I'm super excited to talk to David Giersdorf and Giersdorf. Man, let's just start this whole show over.
I'm dying over here. I'm dying. Tersh, you've been demoted.
I have. I can't do an intro no more. No, I am super excited because we've been talking over the past couple of weeks about disruption in our industry in general. And so we couldn't time this any better to have David on the show to talk about disruption and how to navigate disruption. And that's what I'm just like.
Well, so David, he'll get into it, and he's from the cruise and travel industry. So imagine the disruption on our end. It's been two different ends of the spectrum, right? Like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, all these trades, super busy. Everyone's home. Cruise travel, nobody's doing anything. So it's a very interesting topic to discuss because in 2008, we were on the other end of the spectrum where everything was really tight and contractors had to, kind of figure out other ways to keep their businesses afloat. So this is at some point, we're going to get that cycle coming back, and it's going to be interesting. This is really a relevant topic for anyone who's had their industry or personal life disrupted by something over the last couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, and we can all say that we struggled, like the service industry. There's a lot of people, ourselves included, that grew a lot during the pandemic. But we also faced we currently face other struggles, and the struggles of uncertainty and everything like that. But imagine, just put yourself in the cruise industry and how are they overcoming things? So I'm super excited to listen to what David has to say, because I can only imagine the things that they've had to overcome within that industry. And so one of the things that I've always loved doing with this podcast is speaking with people who are outside of our industry and taking things that work for them and adding it to our industry. That's why there's a lot of things that I do within our business that people are like, this is not normal. That is really outside the box. And the whole reason behind that, and the reason I can do that, is because I have always talked to people outside of our industry. So I'm super excited to have David on the show today. And let's get started with our intro.
Are you looking for valuable business advice to reach that 7-figure revenue mark? Do you want actionable tips to properly navigate through every business challenge you encounter along the way? Let Tersh Blissett and Josh Crouch be your guide in getting you to the top here at Service Business Mastery. Tune in as they sit down with world-renowned authors in business, leadership, and personal growth who share valuable insights about management, marketing, pricing, human resources, and so much more. Let their nuggets of wisdom gold guide you in owning a thriving, profitable, and ever-growing business. Here are your hosts, Tersh and Josh.
Hey, welcome to the show, David.
Thank you. That's a great intro. Let me say before we jump in, hats off first to yourself and to Josh. You made a comment about staying broadly aware and connected outside of your own business and your own sandbox, and bringing those lessons back in. But there's something more that you do. You're sharing it. You're contributing it. Selflessly. This kind of thing that you're doing takes a lot of time and effort, and you have a business to run. So hats off to you. It speaks to a greater purpose to what you're doing, and huge value
Yeah.
for your company, for your industry, for your partners in business. So good for you.
Absolutely, we appreciate that, and it is. It's a we love giving back to our industry, and this is one of the ways that we can do it. We've made connections, and it's made it possible for us to be able to do this. So with that being said, I love having you on the show, and I love what we're going to talk about today. So with that being said, could you give us a little bit of background on you and your history and kind of how you got into doing what you're doing?
Happy to. I grew up in a single parent entrepreneurial family, actually unique in that I was raised by my father. He happened to be a AAA entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I was born in the frontier of Alaska. My father was in the airline business. He helped guide a little company called Alaska Airlines into prominence.
Not so little anymore.
Yeah. And this was in the early days of tourism, putting Alaska on the map for tourism. And my father saw an opportunity. I was in my early teens, launched a family business, making the inaccessible, most spectacular experiences in Alaska accessible.
Huh.
To the far Arctic, out to the remote Aleutian chain, the Pribilof Islands, Glacier Bay National Park. Eventually, that led us to building a fleet of small cruise ships that could go where no other ships could go.
Really?
Right to the face of a glacier for the crashing and sound of those giant icebergs coming, the nose into the waterfall cascading thousands of feet out of the fog and in misty fjords. National monument, a bow landing on a wild beach in the middle of nowhere, things like that. So I grew up in a very creative, operationally intense, capital intense, seat of the pants, bootstrapped. How are we going to make payroll this week?
Yeah.
Environment. Okay.
Sounds like the rest of us.
I was about to
Yes,
say that
indeed.
sounds just like our business.
I can relate, and that experience has informed the unique path of my own career through the global cruise and travel industry. So from that family business, I went into the 30 years ago, the global cruise industry. I've and worked my way up across a variety of brands, publicly traded, billion-dollar plus responsibilities, privately held, highly entrepreneurial boutique companies and brands. I've seen a lot, done a lot. I served a term as chairman of the global cruise industry. You're elected by your peers. You have similar trade associations in your industry. And for the last 10 years, I've really done what I am most passionate about, and that's helping others succeed in their businesses. I take my experience in the global cruise business as an operator, as a builder, as a person who knows that success is a path that is not a straight line. There are setbacks, there are failures, there are lessons, and my form of giving back, besides the advisory work and the helping companies navigate growth, recovery, disruptions, whatever it is, it was also to take a moment, take a year actually, and distill those 40 years of experience into what is the book, Hardships, and the 6 protocols that I found and discerned that I drew on the most repeatedly and consistently to help myself and others get through and lead through challenging times. Growth is challenging as well as disruption. Business isn't easy.
Oh, you're absolutely correct about that. I feel like the best illustration, in my opinion, to growing a business successfully and having success is the thought of jumping off of a cliff and assembling an airplane as you're falling off the cliff so that you can take off in the airplane before you hit the ground. And there's times where it's like you're looking at the ground thinking, we're getting real close and I have a lot left to do to this airplane. You know what I mean? And Then as soon as you get that airplane about built, then all of a sudden the wing falls off and you're like, oh, I gotta find some duct tape here.
Speaking of the flight analogy, I got my rotary wing license when I was younger to fly helicopter.
Okay.
And you learn a maneuver called the auto rotation. That's how you survive a engine outage or mechanical failure. And I learned in the process of that, I came to an awareness that things happen fast at the end. So you can pick your spot, set up your glide, get all ready, but it's that last few seconds before you hit the ground when everything happens.
Yes.
When everything happens, things happen very fast. I learned to watch for the tips of the trees just crossing my sight line, pulling up the nose, driving all that forward momentum through the rotor to get some more energy, and then setting her down on the ground. And that analogy is always with me. Things happen fast at the bottom.
It's
Absolutely.
so true. Josh and I had the pleasure of listening to Sullenberger, Captain Sullenberger, a couple months ago, and it was a very surreal conversation that to have with him. I mean,
well, they had some of the black box recordings as part of his speech, so we could actually hear
everything was happening right there at the end, and then and this is it's just so true in business too. And I didn't really take it away until you just mentioned this, but the last 3 minutes of that flight, 3 minutes was so fast. Wow. Like it was incredibly fast, but then there were years after that for people to analyze that 3 minutes. And that's the same way in business. Like if we fail in business, for years we can analyze that, or if we're successful, we can analyze how we did that. But it happened so fast, and the reactionary period. And if you're not prepared for that time period, if you're not prepared for that last 3 minutes before you go into the last 3 minutes, you're gonna crash and fail. You're going to hit the trees. You're gonna land in the river, at a different angle and drown everyone. You're going to drown the business. And I love the fact that you have these 6 protocols already built out, and this is something that you can go ahead and you read the book and be prepared and use your protocols so that you're not blindsided by that last few minutes of flight.
Your point's absolutely right. That 3 minutes is infused. It goes fast, but it's infused with a lifetime of preparation and experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you've been diligent and smart.
Right. It's a lifetime of preparation.
Yeah.
Whether it's good preparation or lack of preparation.
Yes, absolutely. The outcome is certainly determined by what came before.
Absolutely.
So David, can I ask you? So you obviously had some disruption in your 40 years in the travel industry. What was the premise of why you decided to make this book? And I guess maybe tell us a little bit, because obviously, as we talked before the show, we're getting a huge influx of cash and investors and stuff like that into the home service space. With obviously travel has gone the other way the last couple of years, which has caused a different type of disruption. But I don't know if you have certain experiences or certain things that you can share that kind of led to you creating this book and writing the book on hardships and how to navigate that.
Sure. I would say the underlying theme is purpose. You reach a point in your career where the question is, at this stage, what more? How do I continue to produce? How do I continue to share? How do I continue to lead? And my conclusion was, I have an extremely unique experience and set of skills. And I've always believed that my purpose in life was to be a really high quality bridge. In other words, it's my responsibility to learn, to add something, and to pass it on so that the next person starts from a higher level. And that's how we progress
like
incrementally. So that's my purpose. I'm a learning machine. and I really believe in the bridge concept. That I take it seriously. I have a huge responsibility, however long my life is, to, add value and to contribute. And so that's the reason for the book was I want to draw on that. And when I looked back on my life and career, I realized that I'm a master of disruption. I was born into disruption. I was raised by a disruptor. My career has been in an industry that managed, despite continuous disruption, wars, viruses, economies, geopolitics, you name it, managed to remain resilient and not only survive, but to grow substantially. And that is even the story in this worst of disruptions that we've been through right now. So that's why the book. I believe that I have something to share, and that it's of great value, and that it's applicable not just in my industry, but across industries, and not just in my life, but in some aspect of everyone's life.
So let's go into a little bit of a detail with a couple of the 6 protocols. I don't think we would be able to get through all 6 of them in the next 15 minutes or so, but let's go through like high level a couple of them. If you
Happy to. So the first thing that is essential, I call know your waypoint. Protocol number 1. It's number 1 for a reason. In fact, all of them are in the order that I believe they belong in.
Okay.
Know your waypoint. What's the truth? When circumstances have changed, when you've been disrupted, when the path you were on is no longer certain. And let me tell you, disruption's happening faster and at greater scale than ever before. It's not a question of if you're going to be disrupted. It's when, where, how big, how bad.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
Disruption's a constant.
We've seen that. Yep.
We try to, we want normal, we want non-disruption to be the norm. That's not. Disruption is the norm. So the first thing is a mindset that embraces the truth that, I'm going to be disrupted. Disruption is the norm. It's going to become more so. I need a set of skills. I need a way of thinking. I need a way of acting. I need a way of seeing it when it's coming. So know your waypoint is about getting to the truth. Something has happened. What does it mean? Where am I now? Not where I wish I was, not where I want to be, not where I'm pissed off that I'm no longer headed there. What is the truth? Because until you get to that truth, and there's a lot of people around you that they have their own agendas.
Yeah.
Even in a big business or a small business, they want you to continue on a certain path that's comfortable for them. They want you to deny the disruption. They want you to shield them from it. Right.
Yeah.
So what is the truth? You got to know. You're the leader. What's the unvarnished truth?
I love that. And in our business, the one thing that I say is the only constant that we have is change. And so just be prepared for that. And like you said, like if you're not comfortable with that, being that disruption, learn to get comfortable with that, because same within our business. Like if you're not comfortable with change, you're going to struggle to stay with us, because we will constantly change. Every time we see something can be improved, we're going to do that to improve it.
Yeah.
So,
so know your waypoint is critical, because you have to start from a baseline of truth and reality in order to make good decisions. The second thing, many people think it's okay, now take an action. Okay. I believe that the second thing is what I call stay afloat.
Great
if this
point.
is the truth of where I'm at, then let's take a moment and assess, do I have the resources necessary to go through this event?
I have done the exact opposite. I have done exactly like you said. People think, and that's like, let's start taking action. And I didn't take an assessment, like you said, of what we have going on. Can we stay afloat? And it's cost me, because there were mistakes that I made that would have been easily, I wouldn't have made those mistakes had I done exactly what you're saying here.
That patience part is difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just cash, is it? It's I got to stay afloat here. Do I have the right team? Things have changed. Do I have the right team? Do I have the right skill set? Do I have the right organizational structure? Do I have the right technologies? Whatever that is, you need to take that moment. Things have changed.
Yep.
So throw out the old playbook.
100%.
What's the new playbook? So, I call that stay afloat. Give a lot of examples, eight ways to stay afloat financially, et cetera. And then next comes find your first. Okay, what is that one thing? You've got to build a set of actions. You've got to drive the concentric circle of waves of action outwards, right? From a singular point of action. What is that one thing? We're overwhelmed with the thousands of things we should do now.
Yeah.
What is the one that if you screw it up, either completely ruins or sets back dramatically your chances of recovery, your chances of moving through successfully? What is that one thing? Strip it all away and then build everything around that.
Is this a big thing or like a small detail? Like, so I'm thinking in the HVAC world, a lot of businesses, I'm not saying all businesses are this way because no business is the same really. But there's a lot of businesses that if you lose the residential replacement change outs, your business is going to tank because that's covering your overhead expenses of the business. When I think about clockwork with Mike Michalowicz, they call it the queen bee rule. That's like what everybody surrounds, like the queen bee, and like that person has to be protected, or that item has to be protected. Is it the same thought process, or is it like culture, where it's more of a broad thing? Like if you lose culture, you're going to lose your business. Like,
it's different, as you said. Each business is different.
Yeah.
But let's say you're in the service business. You might have a marketing services company. You might be a consultant. Your first is likely going to be retain my most important clients. If I've been disrupted, likely they have been too. What do I need to do to ensure that that relationship is sticky? Even if I have to do some work for free, if I have to reduce my fees to partner with and help that client get through, they're my main client. First, I've got to hang on to that client. That it might be that. For the cruise industry and this disruption, interesting, you would think the first was we've got to get back operating. We've got to get this virus behind us and get operating. Well, the first actually was we have to be able to operate free of future disruption from this virus. So what science is necessary? What practices are necessary? What policies are necessary to restart without further disruption? It's a huge machine, the cruise industry. It's an enormous mega billion-dollar global 24/7 machine of people, capital, machinery, places, partnerships, regulations, policy. So being able to, the first for the industry was to determine how to restart with dramatically reduced risk of future disruption. That meant convening science panels. It meant new air cleaning technologies aboard the ships. It meant new policies. You must prove you've been vaccinated. All crew are vaccinated, all guests, at least during a period of risk. On and on. So, that's an example where maybe the most obvious first, which was we need to raise capital. Yes, the industry had to raise $30 billion of capital against its ships in order to just pay for sitting there. Yes, that was important.
That's crazy.
But first was restarting in a way that 2 months in, the industry wouldn't shut down again. You can't do that. That would be the death blow.
Yep.
That's a great point. So it's not always the most obvious thing to you. I'm assuming your book, so when you talk about that,
yes,
that part, it goes into understanding which is the most important for you. Because my guess is a lot of people probably don't even know at times. They just They may
Yeah.
think it's this thing, but really, if they actually peel back that onion a little bit, they might understand that it's something else they need to hold on to and make that their first.
I give, I do in the book, in that section, I give a set of let's say, a structure for thinking that through and identifying what your first is. It's very essential. Another suggestion I give people is we all think in terms of scenarios.
Mhm.
Well, if I do this, the future might unfold in these steps. If I do this, the future is going to look a little different this way. You might have 5 or 6 possible scenarios as a strategy for coming out of dealing with a challenge. Well, look for the item or items that are common to each of those strategies, because that's a key clue to your first, your most essential. If there is an item that no matter what strategy you envision is always there in the baseline, you're on your way to determining your first.
Yeah, completely. That common denominator there.
Yeah.
Cool. How about number 4?
Yeah, get flexible. We're creatures of habit.
Yes.
We like predictability. In the face of change and disruption, that can work against you. It can be really good consistency in your business,
Yeah.
standards, metrics, all of that. Very good. But when you're dealing with change and disruption, you've got to be able to think outside the box. You've got to be open to input from your own team members, from your customers, from your competitors, from the world at large. There's a lot of input available if you're open to it.
Yeah.
I use the term throw out the old playbook. You can't be so dedicated. Large company, I have a lot of big publicly traded multi-billion-dollar experience. The tyranny, I call it the tyranny of quarterly earnings, can cause management teams, okay, to you're so relentlessly focused on
Right.
achieving those
Yeah.
numbers and driving your organization forward that when things change, you don't as easily let go of those plans that drive you on. But you need to step back and reassess and redirect. So just mindlessly driving towards the original plan will actually result in self-inflicted pain.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that I like, it's a term that I've heard, numerous times, and it's that what got me here won't get me there necessarily. So I can't stay in that same routine of what's gotten me to where I'm at right now. And also the people that got me here aren't necessarily the people that are going to be with me when I go there. And so we need to be flexible in that aspect as well. Yeah, I love that thought process.
Okay. Beyond get flexible, become collision proof. There are many lessons in disruption. Every disruption I go through, I do a postmortem. Now that we've got some distance from it, what really happened? How did we respond to it? What did we do that was right? What we did was wrong? What are the lessons? How do we bring those lessons into our operating environment and into our culture? You do that continuously. It's a practice. It's a best practice. So I call it becoming anti-fragile. You're going to be hurt. Scar tissue's stronger than anything else, right? So you become more adept and more agile and more survivable with each future disruption. So I give examples of 2 key tools in the Become Collision Proof. One is what I call the incident response plan. You talked about Captain Sully. The airline industry and many others have an incident response plan. It's in the drawer. We do everything we can to avoid disaster, but when disaster strikes, here is the plan. Everybody has a role. In the midst of the fog of disruption, the panic, the anxiety, whatever it is, the fear, people have a hard time thinking clearly.
And the thing about that is that if you're not actively practicing that and reading it and reviewing it
Yes.
during the calm, as soon as it gets wild, like, so I think about like running the play during our shoulder season. So right now we're slower than what we will be in the summertime. And so I'm really hard on my team to make sure that they're consistently running the same play, because as soon as it gets busy and they're like, I want that to be the habit. I want them to know,
Yes.
like, this is what we're going to do during the busy season to ensure that we're creating a consistent client experience. And if you're not doing it when it's calm, they're definitely not going to do it whenever it's hectic.
Well, that's what
Exactly.
Sully mentioned in his speech. He said he literally felt like he trained his whole life for that moment. That 3 minutes or whatever that they were in the air, he trained his entire career for that specific moment because he continued to practice.
And you know what? I will guarantee you, around that incident, all the other people involved, the flight engineering department that he's talking to on the radio, the tower, the emergency response first responders on the ground, everyone is involved in a well-coordinated incident response plan that communicates clearly who goes where, who's responsible for what are the priorities. Okay. So in a way, I would say we all have a incident response plan in our life that is called maybe it's our will, maybe it's our health directive. You know, we have forms of it, but we don't often go the next step and say, you know, for my business, what are the things that could go wrong, and how would we respond to those consistently and quickly, and everybody be on the same page? Or even in my life, other things, I could have disruptions in my financial plans, in my health. What are, you know, how will I respond to that, and who around me needs to know the existence of that plan and what their role is in it, you know? So and finally, risk mitigation is the other side of becoming collision proof.
We are risk managers as business owners.
Absolutely. You know, identifying those risks, and as circumstances change, new risks emerge on the horizon. Make sure you're constantly refreshing your definition of risk assessment and putting in place your best mitigation efforts. And last, and this is really important for small business people as well as large business, I call it protect your value. In the midst of disruption and change, the world around us can do crazy things. Competitors can dramatically drop their prices. You know, you've got to realize that the moves you make now that affect your value, the perception of your value, will be with you for a very long time. And though, like in the cruise business, discounting may drive short-term demand to help fill a period of challenge, but you've now reset the value perception of a cruise vacation, and it's going to take you years to rebuild back to the pricing you were at before.
That's a great
So you
point.
have to be incredibly cautious. Value is a fragile, it's art and it's science. It's a fragile thing, and you've got to protect it. You know, and I give many examples, a lot of strategies for how I've dealt with that in my career and life. So those are the 6 protocols, and the last thing I speak about is what I call the endurance mindset. You're in this for the long haul. Why else would you have started a business? Why else would you have committed to a career? You're in it for the long haul, you know? So think and act as if you're in it for the long haul. I'm an endurance athlete. I do Ironman, you know, long form triathlon. I do hard, challenging endurance feats. Mainly because at my age, that's about all you can do. You can't do the fast stuff, but you can still do the endurance, you know. And it's so those challenges are there. And in the endurance mindset, you learn how to set goals. You learn the discipline of preparation. I call it doing the work.
Yeah.
You learn how to manage your state. You don't go through an Ironman, which is, it's a 2.4 mile open water swim, followed by a 112 mile bike race, followed by a marathon. You don't go through that day without having to manage your state throughout. Circumstances change. You get overexcited. You burn too many candles. All of that. So you're not going to get to the finish line without managing your state. Refueling yourself.
Yes.
Okay, it's simple in it's fluids and sugars in endurance racing, but what about in life? Rest, skills training, inspiration, purpose, refueling yourself,
Exactly.
and then lastly, being a finisher, a relentless commitment to the finish line.
Man, I love the name you're dropping right now.
I will. Yes.
That's the name of the name of our business is Relentless Digital. You said the name. You said it twice. I love it.
Good. Well, a commitment to that finish line. You will finish, no matter what occurs during that race. You will finish. The mind. There's a point where your mind carries you to the finish line, not your body. Your body was done with you a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
It's your mind that gets you there. And I will say one final thing, and this is a unique lesson you learn. Own the finish. When you come across that finish line, friends and family and race photographers are waiting with their cameras. People are watching. Now you're coming across showing the full fatigue and how hard it was, and oh my God, I barely survived, and I'm huffing and I'm puffing, and or are you coming across owning it? I owned this race. I did the work. It was harder than hell. But you know what? You're not going to see that on my face.
Yeah.
In my physical presence. You're going to see a finisher.
There you go.
So I think that's important for people. So that's, some flavor.
I love that. And that's a great point too, because when you see people finish a marathon, you can see the people who own the finish and the people who are like, I am glad that is done, and that was horrible. I'm never going to do that experience again.
Exactly.
And so those two different people, like it's even if they like, you got the person that won handedly, and they're like, okay, well, you're just like a freak of nature, so like I'm not going to compare myself to you. But then you have people who come in. They may come in like third to last, but they own the finish, and they're like, I did this. And then you have the person that might have came in like fifth or sixth or something like that, or towards the front of the pack, but then they're like, they just don't look like they enjoyed any of it. And then all of a sudden it's like I like, no thanks, not enjoyable at all. But then you get the person who has owned the finish, and they're all of a sudden they're like motivation, like it's
true. It's a tradition in Ironman that the professionals start first, and then the age groupers go next. Age groupers, and there are some phenomenal athletes in the age groupers. They're just not professionals, right? But the professionals finish, then the age groupers go. There's a tradition. Those who finish first, those who do the best in the race, they wait. It may take them 8.5 hours to finish, and it may take the last person 17 hours. They wait.
Wow.
They're at the finish line to cheer the last finisher across. That is huge.
I can't even imagine doing 8 hours to do all of that.
Yeah, it's freaks of nature, like you say.
That's insane. I give anyone credit that does that stuff. Maybe that should be a bucket list item. Maybe we'll see if that one ever gets. We'll get to that point.
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot that comes from it that infuses the rest of your life.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
Discipline. Yeah.
David, awesome. we appreciate you taking some time and sharing this with us. If people want to pick up a copy of your book, where's the best place for them to go?
Amazon. It's in all versions: Kindle, audio, softcover, hardcover.
Okay, we'll put a link in that to the show notes. And with that being said, I'm super appreciative of you coming on and sharing this with us. And I love the fact that you were willing to come on, even though you're not quote unquote in our industry traditionally, but you were more than willing to speak on the how it can help infuse inside of our industry just as much as it has in the cruise industry. And yeah, I know our listeners are going to get a ton of value out of this, and so we're appreciative of everything there.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and folks like you open the door and allow me a chance to share and do my thing. So I'm really appreciative of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody has any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Josh or David, and we'll get you in contact with David and get you the resources that we talked about here on today's show. But with that being said, I hope you have a wonderful and safe day. And until we talk again next time, thank you again for watching or listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery Podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.